Eddie from Brooklyn. He is on the line and wants to discuss atheistic perspective of alternative lifestyles. Eddie.
Hey, how you doing, guys?
Good. How are you?
Yeah, I recently became an atheist myself.
Mm-hmm. Congratulations.
Just technically, I used to be Catholic and Christian, and if I can say this, and I don't mean to offend anybody, I got sick and tired of the hypocrisy and the bullshit.
Sure.
In the immortal words of George Carlin, who was a former atheist comedian.
Yes.
And basically now, because of that religious programming and dogma and indoctrination that they brainwashed and mind controlled a lot of people with, where sexuality is taboo and all these different alternative relationships and, different lifestyles is a no-no, because now you're trying to undo that programming because, for like LGBT and like, I guess you could say polyamory or BDSM or kink or swinger lifestyle, they would use words like wicked, devilish, sinful, immoral, evil. And we would, and basically those are hatred divisive man-made words that they created. And basically I'm trying to get rid of that terminology and replace it with something else as an atheist. So do we have a great maybe replacement, or we just look at it as loving and accepting and look at it as normal and moral?
From an atheist perspective, would say just acceptance. It is a spectrum. It is all a spectrum. And no matter where you fall on that spectrum, that doesn't mean that you are unnatural, and it doesn't mean that you're wrong. It just means you fall somewhere outside what most of society considers to be, the norm, but that doesn't really mean anything because I think we all fall outside to some degree of what is considered the norm.
So in other words, in alternative relationships and different sexual orientation or alternative lifestyles, there's always going to be two sides of the coin, meaning if some are going to say it's moral, some are going to say it's not moral.
I think that you are always going to have people agreeing and disagreeing on any topic, whether it's sex, religion, politics, what color bath towels to buy.
The best Starburst?
Watermelon.
It's yellow.
No.
It's yellow.
No, pink. Nope. See, I think we're never going to 100% agree on anything. And it's definitely one of the more divisive topics.
Yeah, and I think what I was maybe hearing you ask a little bit is about terminology, right? About just the vocabulary and coming to a place of comfort with that. I would say that the term alternative lifestyle has, a negative history. That kind of seems like the way that Pat Robertson might have described somebody who was gay in the 80s. But in order to get to that place, there's not, I can't give a short word. I will say that we've, talked about vocabulary a lot on this show and will continue to. And I think the best way to become comfortable or to reach a place of comfort in that topic is by not just watching shows like this one, but being just surrounded by basically queer culture. It is watching queer movies, it's listening to this show and a number of great podcasts that address gender and sexuality and sort of immersing yourself the same way that's true of any culture. If I were to walk into a comic book store right now and pretend to be super big into Pokemon, I think I would be pretty quickly revealed to have no idea what the hell I'm talking about. Because even if I recognize the general concepts, there are words that exist in that community that are just beyond me due to total lack of exposure. And they might embrace and welcome me and introduce me to their game. And it would take a little while through exposure to become comfortable with the jargon and just the way that they communicate with one another. And I think that we maybe don't all need to get super into card games and things along those lines, but we have a
Pikachu. Sorry.
But I do think we have a responsibility as human beings to do at least the bare minimum of becoming acquainted with and familiar with the way other folks live and express themselves, and to be asking people in those communities, how do you identify? What word suits you? How do you describe yourself? And to be deferential to that.
Well, you know, let me tell you something funny. Me, because since leaving religious dogmatic, labels and all that stuff, because those are hateful, judgmental words that they use for LGBTQ and different alternative orientation or relationships or lifestyles. I'm just exploring as an atheist now my godless, hedonistic side, if you know what that means.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I identify myself as, sort of relating to that ethical hedonism viewpoint that, as Megan is always saying, if it's safe, if it's consensual, if it feels good, that's the litmus test. If it passes those three questions, there's really not a whole lot of reason not to dive into it. And so we would encourage you to spend some time with that and to see what clicks.
I mean, look, let me put it to you this way. I'll give you a quick example. A very quick example. Let's say we take pornography. And, okay, I watch pornography. Other people do it for a living, or do prostitution, or are strippers, or are escorts, whatever have you say. Now, from an atheistic view, and I'm sure you've heard of somebody called godless bitches.
Nope, never heard of it. No, that's a joke.
Well, no,
yes, of course we have heard of it.
Yeah, believe we have their mug right there.
Yes.
Right. So basically what I'm trying to say is, like, if somebody who watches pornography or does pornography for a living, from an atheistic viewpoint, would we put a label on it like religion does, or we just don't put a label?
Well, if the person involved in the pornography is not in distress in any way and is making informed choices, and more power to them.
Yeah, being an atheist doesn't mean not being discriminatory. And what I mean by that is not that we go around judging people with the moral shame of an ancient book. We still have permission to point out things that are shitty in this world, whether it's political, whether it's social. I mean, we have a moral responsibility as people to point out what's wrong about our planet and to do what we can to change it. And so if somebody is being hurt, abused, trafficked, robbed, ripped off, objectified, damaged in some way, we have an obligation to see that and then to do something about it. But to just quickly circle back to your question, I don't see that any of those things are happening just because somebody chooses to do sex work in some way. Yeah, absolutely. Now, all of those issues are concerns in the pornography world, but they don't define the pornography world.
Right.
I mean, I was reading some articles on Google, and a lot of Americans say that pornography is morally becoming acceptable, even though a lot of people don't want to admit it. What do you think of that?
I think that means that us and people like us are doing a great job.
Yep.
And God knows there's a whole lot more that we need to do.
Yes.
Well, look, it's better than watching like a movie that does killing and violence, where pornography, as long as it's consensual, not hurting anybody, and consensual, is way better than somebody murdering and killing or whatever, or raping.
I would have to say that each type of film has its place in society.
Yeah, I think that we're at the hour and a half mark, so I don't know that we have enough time to break down the value of all of art.
Yes,
but we do appreciate you calling in. I do just want to say that if it is safe, consensual, and brings pleasure, we support it.
I just want to quickly say one thing, very quickly, and I hope you guys are very successful with your show.
Thank you.
Because you guys started a great thing and a great discussion. because I think we should discuss this, and maybe we could shed some light and maybe make people's lives better. When my philosophy is this, is do what thou shalt wilt that makes you happy. And as long as you're not hurting or harming somebody, I think that's the best philosophy to adopt as an atheist.
Ethical hedonism for the win.
Well,
thank you
Eddie.
so much for giving us a call, Eddie.